The Forest game at the weekend, you billed it last week as the biggest game of the season, absolute must-win, and Arsenal responded with what to me looked like one of their best performances and most convincing and best results of the season.
Yeah, it was the best performance of the season, I think. Certainly the first 45 minutes. I mean, strangely, they only scored one goal in that first half and they scored two in the second, but I thought the first half was the better of the two. They played really, really well. There was a balance to the team that we just haven't seen for a long, long time, really. And it was a really comfortable win in what looked like could be a tricky game against a decent Forest side, but Forest just never really got a sniff. I think Arsenal were just on it from the start, came out of real intensity. Big players played well. Like I said, the balance in the team that's been missing was there. The right-hand side was strong. The left-hand side was strong. Martin Odegaard was sensational. Bukayo Saka was great. And it all just sort of manifested into a fantastic team performance and very much needed, I think. As I said last week, this is a huge run of games for Arsenal now, and they needed to get up and running. I tell you, I actually wasn't expecting a very good performance. I thought because of the run they'd been on, they just needed to find a way to win, and I would have taken a 1-0 just to get them up and running and find a little bit of momentum. So I was pleasantly surprised at how well they played and how good they looked. They've got to back it up now, obviously, but you would think, you could see how happy Arteta was after the game as well in the press conference. But you think that would give him a real shot in the arm going forward. Now it was a really strong performance.
And how much would you say was it Arsenal being sort of great and back to near their best, and Forest being a bit under par? We gave Forest quite a big build up last week, unbeaten they were before that away from home, which frames the Arsenal win in an even better light. But as you mentioned, the balance there, if it is more Arsenal being very good than Forest being a bit under par for what they've been this season, how excited should Arsenal fans be now that, as you say, you've got that balance right? Saka looked good, partially because I'm sure Odegaard was in there, so the opposition team can't focus so much on Saka and stopping that Saka threat. The balance, as you say, is right. It was an interesting selection from Arteta in the first place, and that certainly raised a few eyebrows. But how much? Obviously, that's not their first choice 11, but how excited should Arsenal fans be from that performance?
I think they should be excited. I mean, it was a really surprising start in 11. I was not expecting that. I walked into the press room before the game just as the team was being announced, and I was talking to some of the other Arsenal reporters in the press room, and we were all just thinking, none of us were expecting that, and we were trying to work out exactly sort of what the reasoning was. Was it that Martinelli, for example, had the long trip back from Brazil? Why was Jesus in over Havertz? It certainly caught us all by surprise. But I think the fact that they turned in a performance like that with some of those players, I think will be really big for Arsenal. Jesus, I thought, played well. He didn't get his goal, which is a shame, but I thought he played well. He linked up well, especially in the first half. And the fact that some of those players who came in performed the way they did and helped produce a performance that Arsenal did should be really beneficial in the long run, because if they do come out the side now, at least they feel part of it. Even Sterling coming on, getting the assist late on, I think that was really crucial. Nwaneri coming on, scoring, that's big for him. Even Jakub Kiwior coming on and getting some minutes. Like I said, Jesus playing. Trossard had his best game in a long time on the left-hand side. I was surprised he started over Martinelli. So sort of marry that all up together, and I think that's going to be really strong for Arsenal, because those players now will just have a little bit more confidence than they previously did, because they had been struggling. So yeah, I think they'll take an awful lot from it. The balance was was really, really important, and just having Odegaard back, it's so important to Arsenal. You really realise, and we're seeing it with Man City now with Rodri. We all know Rodri's an unbelievable footballer, the best in my view in his position in the world, deserving winner of the Ballon d'Or. But it's really not until he's actually not in the side that you actually realise just how good he is. And it's the same with Martin Odegaard. The best players, you actually notice how amazing they are when they're not there, because of the difference of the team that you're watching when they're trying to sort of get through without them. And you put Odegaard in that side, like you pointed out, the relationship with Saka, the partnership with Saka. You look at the first goal, for example, the understanding is just so strong there. And I thought Timber did really well on the right-hand side, coming in for Ben White, and Calafiori back on the left-hand side. So you had the natural left footer over there, and that allowed Timber to go back to his right. And it all just worked, and it all just looked really balanced. And it's the first time we've been able to say that for a long time when it comes to Arsenal. So, credit to them. Credit to Arteta for the bold team selection. He got it right. His substitutions are right, and it was just a very good day.
Yeah, I was going to say Arteta's substitutions worked a treat as well, didn't they? Partey coming on at half time. Obviously for Jorginho, obviously got booked, so that looked like the reason behind that. And then Sterling getting the assist, Nwaneri getting the goal. So yeah, Arteta seemed to get the selection right, even though it raised a few eyebrows, and then get the substitutions right as well. Do you see that being sort of more like the Arsenal team we expect to see going forward, considering it worked out so well? Obviously, you'd expect Rice to come in as standard in a first choice 11, but the other positions seem to be a little bit more up for grabs. Jesus maybe coming in for Havertz, if the whole balance was right. Could that be a sign of things to come rather than what we were seeing before the international break?
No, I would say that Havertz certainly comes back into the side. I was really surprised at that. I was happy with the performance that Jesus put in, but I was very surprised that Havertz didn't play, and I expect him to come back. I think he'll play at the weekend, for example, at West Ham. I'd be very surprised if we see Jesus there. And I think Declan Rice, I know Declan Rice wasn't deemed fit enough to start that game. So although he was on the bench, I think Arsenal were very happy that he didn't have to come on in that second half, and they could give him a little bit of rest. I was recording something after the game in the press box, actually, and Rice came out and was doing a sort of fitness check with one of the fitness coaches at Arsenal. The rest of the substitutes were having their warm down match that they always do on the pitch after the game, but Rice was on his own with the fitness coach doing sprints and things like that up and down. So you can see they're just being very, very careful with Declan. They want to get him back fit and be really strong before he comes back. Jorginho was great, by the way, and again, his performance made me. I've always thought that Arteta has underused him this season. I've been really surprised at the lack of minutes, and when you see him play the way he did in that first 45 minutes before he got replaced, it just made it even stranger, really, that we haven't seen him utilised more, because he's such a good player. And in Odegaard's absence, he's one of the few players that I think could have helped provide a little bit more creativity, even if it's from a deeper position. So, no, when I look at that team, I don't expect that to be the team going forward. I think we'll see some of the big hitters come back. But like I said, I think for what they did when they did come on, those players, I think it'll be really beneficial for Arsenal and the squad.
So what was the consensus then? Why Arteta went for that? Was it horses for courses, or was it one eye on Sporting Lisbon maybe, or what was the consensus?
No, I think it was the fact that he had been working with a lot of those guys back at Colney for the sort of previous 2 weeks during the international break, and he'd obviously been very impressed by what they'd done during that, because a lot of the internationals like Havertz, like Martinelli, they were left out, and so I think he was obviously been pretty impressed by how Jesus had been playing. Obviously been working with Jorginho a lot. Maybe looked at him and thought, yeah, you know what, I need to give him a chance. And probably maybe the run they'd been on before the international break, he looked at it and thought, we need to just try and shake things up a little bit to get ourselves out of it. And so all sort of combined that all together, and he thought, this is a good opportunity. But again, I don't think it's going to be a long term. I mean, I cannot imagine we're going to see Declan Rice sit warm in the bench for too long, and certainly not Kai Havertz as well. So, yeah, I think it was a kind of a mixture of things, really. But I do still look at it more as a one-off. But I would like to see him do that more in the future, because I bet that surprised Nuno. When that team selection came through in the change room before the game, it's very easy to predict Arsenal's starting 11 a lot of the times when everyone's fit. And so I think Arteta, it can really help him, I think, if he does mix it up a little bit more and just catches people by surprise a little bit more going forward. Because full well Forest wouldn't have prepared for that side, and that might maybe contributed to the Forest just looking a little bit off it on the day.